Since the October 7th terrorist attack on Israel by Hamas, we have seen so many acts of anti-Semitism here in Canada and in North America. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Lorrie Goldstein and Brian Lilley. You know, Lorrie, we've talked about the number of incidences that have happened, the emotions that have spilled over from there and on the ground here in Canada, the chants we're seeing in the streets, telling Jews to go back to Poland, glorifying certain aspects of what Osama bin Laden did on 9/11, and now people chanting pro-Hamas slogans on the streets of our cities in Canada. Most recently, 2 Jewish schools, shots fired at their Jewish schools, the encampments that have overtaken our universities, and now MPs' offices being defaced with graffiti saying, "If Rafa burns, Toronto will burn." That's just one example. We keep hearing from politicians and our feckless leaders, this is not who we are. But Lorrie, it seems that in some cases, yes, this is exactly who we are.
Oh, of course. I think what we've seen in Canada is that the political class is paralyzed. They have no idea what to do. And frankly, when you hear commentators, talking about, well, what can we do? And you put these questions to politicians. Well, we all have to respect each other. We all have to, legitimate protest is one thing, but violence is blah, 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 blah. But they're paralyzed, just like the University of Toronto is paralyzed. It's seeking an injunction to get those protesters off of the campus. It's trespassing. They don't need an injunction to do it. They're just trying to slough off the responsibility for what's happening on the courts. Which to me, I don't blame the courts, I blame the university. They're trespassing. You have the right to remove them from your property. If somebody, you or I, suddenly has somebody camping on the front lawn of our house, they're trespassing. And there are steps we can take to remove them, starting with calling the police. So in the Toronto case, U of T, we're now looking at mid-June to late June before there's a hearing, and there's no guarantee in that hearing that they're going to win. And does everybody forget what happened in Alberta? 2 universities there had these encampments. Universities called in the police and they removed them. And is anybody talking about those encampments now? No, because they did it right away. Now, I agree with all these people and the threats of the unions that we're going to stand and, they'll have to come through us. Now you've got a very highly charged emotional situation, but it was caused by U of T. And why has it happened? It's happened because U of T for years was warned over and over again. It was warned in its own studies that it ordered that anti-Semitism was a serious problem on that university. University presidents across the country have now gone to the House of Commons, and they've said it's a serious problem. Okay, so and you did nothing. You did nothing. You allowed this stuff to percolate, to grow, to infest, and now it's there and there's nothing you can do about it. I was at a Shiva, which is how Jews mark the death of a loved one, and you're talking there. So this is a group of largely Jewish people, and there's a certain cynicism. There's a cynicism in the sense that people are saying that this anti-Semitism has exploded. No, it was always there. These are the children of Holocaust survivors, and who have family in Israel, and they.
Lorrie, what you just said there, Merrick Gertler, the president of U of T, is the son of a Holocaust survivor, and so it perplexes me as to why he has done nothing at U of T. Perhaps he's afraid of being accused of, well, you're Jewish and therefore you're acting too harshly. No, University of Calgary and University of Alberta, as you pointed out, moved in quickly. McGill has been utterly feckless as well. UBC, McMaster, this goes on across the country. And you're right, anti-Semitism has not exploded. It's come out of the shadows, perhaps, but as a non-Jew, I am disturbed at what I'm seeing in the streets. I am uncomfortable. And the U of T encampment is somewhere where I walk my dog before the encampment went in and since. And it's very uncomfortable being over there now. It's very uncomfortable watching these marches go through the streets, or visiting synagogues and seeing or Jewish community centers in our city and seeing the number of police that have to be there. As I think I've told you before, going to mass my whole life in a Catholic church, the only time you'd see a cop is if the cop was going to mass, and not because he had to be there to protect worshipers from showing up to a church service or going to a community event. That just doesn't happen for other communities. And I think Canadians need to look around at what's happening to our Jewish neighbors and ask, what the hell is happening? Why are we allowing it to happen? Why aren't politicians or police chiefs, hello, Myron Demke, why aren't they doing more?
Yeah, and
and I think that's a very fair aspect to this, Lorrie. Like, let's just talk about the girls' Jewish school in northern Toronto that was just shot up. There was recently in Montreal, just this week, a Jewish school in Montreal shot at. I mean, if this was any other religious minority or whatever, there would be marches in the street denouncing all of this, talking about how we're going to protect these communities. But we don't see that in this instance from, as Brian says, either political leadership, police leadership, really anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I will. Polyev and the Conservatives have certainly been much better than Trudeau and the Liberals. But all, to me, it's just for all of us who had family who were suffered in the Holocaust and all that. What we're all realizing is that our parents and grandparents were right. We naively thought that we'd move beyond this in a first world enlightened country like Canada, and no, we haven't. And the other thing is that, so this is who we are. And I think there are two reasons that it's happening. One, a lot of our chattering classes essentially agree with the protesters, at least as far as the Hamas war goes. And like, okay, I get that. You know, Palestinians are dying. It's horrible. My view is that, well, there's a reason that that's happening, and it started with what Hamas did, and it's not ending because Hamas won't release the hostages. But having said that, I think part of it is fear. I think a lot of these people naively think, it was Churchill who said, an appeaser is someone who feeds somebody else to the crocodile, right? Hoping that they'll be the last person. Well, the crocodile will come for everyone eventually. I'm not comparing things currently to the level of what happened in the Holocaust, but in the Holocaust, 6 million Jews died, and almost as many other people died who weren't Jewish. In my family, my Catholic father-in-law ended up in Mauthausen, concentration camp, for running an underground newspaper. My late mother-in-law ended up in a German work camp, which is one above, a concentration camp. If you think these things are going to stop because look at those protesters, it's not just anti-Jewish, it's anti-Western, it's anti-capitalism, it's anti-government, and it's in favor of the supreme leader of Iran put out a tweet congratulating university students in the United States.
That's right.
Al-Qaeda put out a release. To me, if you're on the same side as the Ayatollah Khamenei in Iran and Al-Qaeda, you're probably on the wrong side of history. But the problem is, in our current history, not so much.
And that emboldens them, Brian. Last word to you on this. You know, you see the tweet that was posted on X from Ayatollah Khamenei telling these university students in the US, you're on the right side of history. It emboldens them and makes them feel good. I think the scary part is these children do not seem to understand history. And I come back to, and I've said this before, and if I were a parent of one of these students, what the hell are you wasting my tuition money on? So you can go camping and do God knows what else is going on in that encampment. I mean, it's very frustrating to me. Where are the adults in the room? When is dad going to come in and say, okay, kids, enough is enough?
Well, they won't let me be in charge. So if it was me, it would have
Or
happened on
Lorrie.
day
Yeah.
one. Don't
Yeah.
make me come back down there. Lorrie hit on a really important point, and that is they're not just anti-Israel. They're not just incredibly anti-Semitic. They are anti-Western. And so getting the endorsement of Khamenei, they probably think it's fine. Well, Al-Qaeda, yeah, but didn't you see that video on the letter, bin Laden's letter to America? I mean, he was onto something. You see the signs up there. They endorse the most radical politics, and the newest trend is not just saying Palestinians want their land back and from the river to the sea. It's from Turtle Island to Palestine. All the land should be handed back. They've bought into the mindset of everyone is either a colonial settler or an oppressed colonized person. And anyone with power or perceived power is evil, and anyone who does not have that power or perceived power is righteous in whatever they do. And you see that in the language on the signs, on the graffiti that they've put up, in the language that they speak when they hold their rallies. So that is why this is so dangerous. Now, thankfully, the overwhelming majority of the close to 100,000 students at U of T right now aren't taking part in this. And a good chunk of the people who are there are not students. Most people at the university don't have the time of day for this, other than Merrick Gertler, who seems to like having campers on his lawn. But that is a very dangerous, or one of the reasons that this is a very dangerous movement is the radical politics that they have accepted. And then most of the media does a horrible job explaining what these people are really about, and they just call them pro-Palestinian. They don't look at their messages. They don't report their messages. We do, but an awful lot of the others, especially on TV, just say, oh, well, they're here. No, they're here, and they've got a dangerous message and a warped worldview, which is why Khomeini's endorsement isn't a big deal to them. Probably welcome.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to thetorontosun.com. You're going to find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.